I'm Dave Rose. I'm an economist who studies the connection between culture and human flourishing. My colleagues and I at the American Civics Academy hope to launch a new movement in civic education by building the science of cooperation into the teaching of American civics. Today, I'll be talking about the dawn of cooperation. The word cooperation is used in many ways. Here we'll be thinking of cooperation as people consciously choosing to work together because they expect that by doing so, they'll make themselves better off. Suppose, for example, that I can move 3 sleeper sofas in an hour all by myself. But by working with you, we can move 12 in an hour. This makes both of us twice as productive, and obviously, we can both benefit. At its core, cooperation is the simple idea that the value of the whole is greater than the value of the sum of the parts. But it's also a very powerful idea. A growing number of biologists and social scientists have shown that it's impossible to tell the story of how modern humans evolved without accounting for the power of cooperation. We at the American Civics Academy submit that it's equally impossible to tell the story of how America was made if we don't fully account for the power of cooperation. The problem is that cooperation is now so ubiquitous in America that it's easy to take for granted. It's hard to imagine anything more important than air, but that doesn't keep us from taking that for granted. Cooperation's a lot like that. An indication of the breadth of cooperation's power is that it's actually quite common in nature. Social insects like ants, bees, and termites dominate our planet in both count and biomass. They cooperate in a very crude way through genetically encoded behavior that functions like if-then statements in a computer program. But while this crude form of cooperation is very powerful because it works well in very large groups, it's also very inflexible because behavioral adaptation works far faster than genetic adaptation. To see why that might be a problem, suppose a fungus wiped out all the clover in a given area. Suppose that a new kind of flower replaced the clover, but it's also good food for bees. If the new flower scent is not recognized by the bees as an if predicate followed by the then response to collect its nectar, all of the bees in the area will die, even though there's plenty of food all around them, because they can't think it through. Other species like wolves and orcas are able to cooperate in flexible ways because their behavior is not locked in by genetic encoding. This allows them to adapt their behavior on the fly. They and their prospective cooperative partners think about what they might do before they actually do it. Unfortunately, flexible cooperation almost never works well in large groups. Now that's a shame because, as Adam Smith explained 250 years ago, the most powerful way to increase productivity is to cooperate in large groups. That's because large groups make it possible to divide up tasks very precisely, allowing everyone to get very good at what they do. So what is it that keeps flexible cooperation limited to small groups like wolf packs? The larger the group, the more likely individuals will be tempted to promote their welfare at the expense of the group. Surely you can agree that most individuals are more likely to cheat a large corporation or the government than they are to cheat someone in their family or a friend. The problem is that if all individuals act this way, it leads to disaster. When, for example, one individual cheats on his taxes, he benefits greatly, while the rest of the country is imperceptibly harmed. No big deal, right? But when everyone cheats, the country can be damaged greatly, ultimately harming every citizen in the process. Some of you may recognize that this was the crux of the problem in Garrett Hardin's 1968 masterpiece, The Tragedy of the Commons. But there's one species, us Homo sapiens, that can cooperate in large groups in flexible fashion at the same time. But that wasn't always the case. In all but the last 10,000 years or so, even modern humans, who've been around about 200,000 years, have lived almost exclusively in groups smaller than 60. After being discussed by Malcolm Gladwell in his best-selling book, The Tipping Point, Robin Dunbar became an international scientific celebrity for showing us that our genes only equip us to get along well together in groups of up to about 150 people. Bees, in contrast, live in hives of well over 30,000 individuals. Luckily for us, culture, in the form of knowledge passed across generations by teaching rather than by genes, provided a path for allowing us to cooperate in flexible fashion, even in large groups. Our superior communication ability made us uniquely gifted at teaching and learning. So we were able to use culture to stretch flexible cooperation far beyond Dunbar's number. We did this by creating new ideas, beliefs, rules, and customs that help corral the daunting problem of opportunism that emerges in large groups. By doing this, we were able to cooperate flexibly even in large groups. The bottom line is that there's a deep connection between culture and cooperation. This argument has been laid out in several articles and books by Joseph Henrich and his co-authors, and is becoming an accepted idea broadly in the social sciences. So there's now a strong consensus among the social sciences that our unique ability to use culture rather than genes to facilitate cooperation is what allowed our species to fall so far ahead of all other species. It's inevitable that some societies have cultures that do a better job supporting cooperation than others. Some cultures even make possible the emergence of institutions, things like the rule of law and respect for private property, that powerfully support cooperation across society. What you will learn on this channel is how America's culture did this to greatest effect, thereby opening the floodgates of cooperation that engendered mass human flourishing as never before in human history. In the next video, we'll use very simple examples to more precisely illustrate how cooperation works. Some things are worth knowing deeply, and cooperation is certainly one of them. But now I'd like you to hit the like and subscribe buttons so, together, we can begin building the science of cooperation into the teaching of American civics.